Okay, let's practice writing equations of lines. And really what we want to remind ourselves is that we're going to use y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope, right? That's the slope. And that value is the y-intercept, okay? So let's just go through some examples of all the different ways we can write equations. So let's say example 1. Let's say I just knew that the slope was 3, and I knew this point 0, 5, right? Well, 0, 5 is the y-intercept. So if you knew those two things, then the equation should just be 3x plus 5, right? Very easy to write an equation of a line if you know the slope and you know the y-intercept. Okay, so how can it get harder? Well, what if you knew a slope and you knew a point that wasn't the y-intercept? Let's say 2, 5. Okay, so then your first goal would be, well, if I know the slope and I know a point, I can use this to find the y-intercept, and then I can write the equation of the line. Okay, so I'm going to write down y equals mx plus b, and then I'm going to plug in everything I know. Well, I know a slope and I know a point. So I'm going to plug in a y value of 5, a slope of 4, an x value of 2, and then I'm going to find b. So this is 5 equals 8 plus b, which means b must be -3. But once you know b and you know m, and you can come over here and say, okay, y equals mx, in this case, -3. Once you know the slope and the y-intercept, then you can write the equation of the line. Okay, so I gave you, in this case, I gave you a slope and a point. Well, what over here, what if I gave you just 2 points? What if I gave you the point -1, 4, and I gave you the point, I don't know, 3, and -4. Okay, well, we know that if I have 2 points, I can find the slope, right? The slope is the rise over the run. So I can do -4 minus 4, that's the rise, and then 3 minus -1. So that's -8. 3 minus a -1 is +4. So now I have a slope of 2. Okay, now I have the slope. Well, at this point, you can use either point. Remember, both of these points are on the line, so then both of them should work in the equation. So let's just pick this one, okay? So I'm going to write down y equals mx plus b, and I'm going to use that to find b. Again, I found the slope, now let's find b. So I'm going to plug in a y value of 4, the slope of -2 that I got, an x value of -1, and then I find b. So this is 4 equals 2 plus b, b equals 2, but once I know b and I know the slope, then I can write the equation, 2x minus 2. Again, once you have the slope and the y-intercept, you can write the equation of the line, just like I did here. I knew the slope and I found the y-intercept. Then I can write the equation of the line, right? Once you know those two quantities, again, this is the easiest way. There are other ways to find equations of lines, but I think y equals mx plus b is the one you're probably most familiar with, and it's probably the easiest. No matter what you're given, if you're given a slope and a point, if you're given 2 points, find the slope, find the y-intercept, write the equation of the line. That's really all you need. What if I gave you, another example, what if I gave you the x and y intercepts? What if I gave you the or a y-intercept of 0, 5, and an x-intercept of, let's say, I don't know, -2, 0, okay? Well, I still need to find the slope. The slope is still the rise, so I'm gonna treat this as my second point. So this is 0 minus 5 over -2 minus 0. So I get -5 over -2, and so I get 5 halves, and I have the slope, and then I actually already have the y-intercept. So I can go right to the equation. Y equals 5 halves x plus 5. Again, in that particular case, one of the points was the y-intercept, so I didn't even need to do this extra step of finding b. I know b, and I know the slope. Again, once you know b, and you know the slope, you can write the equation of the line. One of the things you can always do is you can check your answer by using a point, by plugging in right? You can do this by plugging in a point. So what I mean by that is, let's say you think this is the equation that goes through those 2 points. Well, they both have to work, so you can plug in 3 here for x, and you better get -4. And you're like, oh, what did I do wrong? You're like, oh, see, I caught my own error because I checked my answer. That was supposed to be a -2 plus 2. That's got to be a negative right there. And now you can actually check to make sure that it works, right? 3 times a -2 is -6. Oh, and that was supposed to be, did I totally just do those backwards? That was kind of weird, right? There we go. This was a +2. This was the -2, right? So the slope is -2 and the y-intercept was +2. Okay, now let's actually check it again. So -2 times 3 is -6. -6 plus 2 is -4. Okay, that point works. Let's check this one. -2 times -1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. Yay, both of those points work on this line, which means the equation of this is the equation of the line that goes through those 2 points. And you can do it for all of those. Okay, what if you had something, I'm just going to kind of draw this. You know, this, something like that. Okay, and what if you wanted to know the equation of that line? Well, you could find the slope, but that's just 3 and 1. So the slope there is -3, right? And it's downhill. And then the y-intercept is 0, 1. Well, that makes it easy to write the equation. Y equals -3x plus 1. Once you know the slope and you know a point, or once you know the slope and you know the y-intercept, you can write the equation of the line. Okay, so if I give you a graph, it's easy. And let's just do 2 other ones. Just as a reminder, if you have this guy, that's a special case. That's a vertical line. Think about every single point on there has the same x value. So the equation makes sense to be x is -3. Everything has an x value of -3, so the equation is x equals -3. And then this black one, this horizontal line, every point on that line has a y value of 4, so then the equation should make sense that it's y equals to 4. Vertical lines look like x equals, horizontal lines look like y equals, and as a reminder, this guy has a slope of 0. This guy has an undefined slope. Undefined slope, or actually an infinite slope. I wouldn't mark that wrong either. Okay, so writing equations of lines, most of the time you're going to use y equals mx plus b. If you're given 2 points, you're going to find the slope first, then the y-intercept, and then plug it back in. In this case, I had a point and a slope. I found the y-intercept, and then I wrote the equation. Again, once you know the slope and the y-intercept, then the equation is easy to write. I can give you the 2 intercepts. I could just give you a slope and the y-intercept. I could give you a graph, so horizontal and vertical lines are special cases, but then normal things are like this. You wouldn't even have to know the y-intercept. You know, what if I gave you like this point here and that point, right? That might be a little trickier to find that equation. Let's go ahead and do that one, and then we'll be done. So that one's not as obvious of where it's going to hit on the y-axis. So, but we can still, if you know that point and you know that point, you can still find the slope, right? It's going to go up 2 and over 5. So the slope there is 2/5. this coordinate point is -4, 0, and once you know a point and a slope, then you can plug into y equals mx plus b. So write that down, y equals mx plus b, and let's plug in. So let's plug in our y value of 0, our slope of 2/5, our x value of -4, and that's plus b. Okay, and there's going to be some fractions here, which is totally fine. So 2/5 times -4 is just -8/5 plus b, and then I have to add that over, so I get b equals 8/5. So the equation of this guy is 2/5 x, right? That's our slope, and then our b is plus 8/5. And if you kind of trace that out, you can kind of see that that slope is really close to hitting right there, which is like 8/5, right? Just below 2. Okay, so you can get fractions for slopes, you can get fractions for y-intercepts. Lots of times in the easier situations, your y-intercept is just a number like 2, but certainly it can be a fraction and it's no big deal. Okay, hopefully this video helps you write the equation of a line given a graph, given 2 points, given an intercept, or just given like the slope and the intercept. There are other methods like point slope, but for you guys, I think you probably really should just concentrate on getting very efficient at using y equals mx plus b.